good now. What's good, boys? Welcome back to the channel. We're here live at Starbucks having coffee. Having some lovely coffee. If you haven't yet, check out the website. Be sure to check it out. We have the very own Coach E in the building. Why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Coach E. Stands for my first name, which is Emmanuel. So yeah, short for E. Yeah, we're just out here at a coffee shop, chill vibes. You know, we may talk about things, cover things that you know, a lot of people may just, you know, go past their mind, especially when it comes to life, business, relationships, concepts that we also may not consider that we have relationships with, but they may need just a little bit improving on. But yeah, other than that, it's just vibing, brainstorming, you know, trying to better ourselves, yeah, figuring out all the necessary tools.
Yeah, guys, we also went out last night. It was pretty interesting. There's a lot of spots to go out in Arizona. We were actually next to, what was it, the Suns practice facility? The Phoenix Suns practice facility. So, and it's something I talked about in one of my recent videos. It's like understanding your environment and positioning yourself, because I mean, a lot of you guys are oblivious to a lot of dynamics, and you know, you're banging your head against the wall, you know, unable to get to the next level because you fail to realize where you're at, who you're up against, you know, what things are being said, you know, what things are happening around, and you gotta position yourself in order to build good relationships. Well, set good first impressions, all of the above, you know.
Everything about positioning too. If you're positioning yourself, you have goals, and the goals, you know, align themselves when you learn how to just like position yourselves. And some people educate you on how positioning really works.
Yeah.
Because like you can position yourself to win, but sometimes you have to understand what winning looks like. If it's within the, you know, employment world, you have to obviously prepare yourself to be employed, right?
Right.
And one thing that most people do is like create a resume that's strong, and then create an idea of what realm they want to go into if they're, you know, just starting their career or starting the idea of just working within an industry. And then they realize, oh yeah, I may have to put in at least 5-10 years of just, you know, investing in myself, learning all the necessary things that I need to learn to be able to succeed, which means I'm winning now within the industry that I'm in. And if that's the women department, if you're trying to like find purpose within the life that you live, and you're trying to find someone to like, you know, grow old with, then you just have to learn how to position yourself and find the right one, so you don't settle for just whoever, you know. And most people are settling, but they don't necessarily want to admit it, because they don't have a choice. Once you get to a point you don't have a choice, you have to settle for what you know. That's what everything, literally everything. It could be the employment world, it could be a female, it could be definitely. Yeah. There's a lot of motherfuckers out here settling for sure.
Because like marriage is, you're tied for life.
And that's the most important decision you're making in your entire life. Like the person you choose to either like build with or destroy you. Yeah, that you heard that correct. She can either make you better or destroy you. So the goal is to like obviously look at it from a learning curve. Like, okay, if I've been in several different relationships, has it made me better? Am I stronger? Am I sharper? You know, and if you are, yeah, just be thankful for that opportunity to just be better. Because the goal is to like be competitive with the person you are facing every day, which is your challenges, your problems, and then you just have to become good at becoming the solution for your own problems. Not pointing the finger, because that's a habit that's like, I guess, contagious, and we see our friends pointing the finger like, who should I blame for these problems that I have? Or, yeah, who should I, just point the fingers at, because it's not my fault, but you gotta take responsibility for all that, accountability for all that, and the independent mindset sometimes, what we forget to do is give credit where credit is due. Why can't we point the finger at those that help us make our life better and say, you know what, without them, I wouldn't be here today. But we're fast to like point fingers when there are problems. Like now I want to give him an increment of some of the problems that he helped create in my life, or her, or da-da-da-da, but we don't want to take accountability and say it was our fault, or we did this, I did this wrong. But when you start facing that truth, you start to understand, fear a lot better. Then you start to realize success is not like, it's just right there, right around the corner. You want to pitch in on some of your ideas on this too, you can. Don't want to hog.
Nah, you good. Accountability is one of the most important characteristics you need as a man, as a person. You want to reach. If you hold yourself at a high standard, it's needed. It's mandatory. Being accountable, even when you're in the face of something that's completely out of your control, you're going to tell yourself it was your fault. Because only then you're going to be able to make the adjustments. It's like we're more stressed out when we feel like we don't have any control of something, or there's that uncertainty. But there's always, in every failure, there's always hints of what you did wrong. But being accountable, it comes with being able to fight for what you believe. Like, you get to a point where you own up to everything. It may get to a point of violence. It may get to a point of arguments, but it's part of being a man,
And a man.
Like I can, for example, flake on you. Like say if we have plans to I don't know, go to the gym, and I tell you, like say for example, I just didn't feel like going. But I lie to you and I tell you, because I don't want to be accountable, and I tell you, something came up with my mom. I got to go check on her. That's not being accountable. Right? Being accountable is saying, you know what? I just don't feel like going today. Like, I just don't feel like doing it today. See, but that opens up. What do you mean you don't feel like it? I just don't feel like it. And you keep going down that path.
It's a bad path to go into, because now you're like allowing your emotions to take control over your life. And if you allowed your emotions to take control over the idea of going to a job, you'll lose that job very quickly. You'll get to a point where you don't have a job because you feel like not going, or you feel like showing up late, or you feel like talking back to your boss. Sometimes just being certain with certain things means like, oh yeah, if I want to keep this job long term, if I want to like please certain people, I have to stay within the lane that my title technically entails me to stay in within, you know. And most people don't necessarily apply the same principle in just relationships and accountability. Like when it comes to your friend, if he is counting on me to show up because it was a plan, and he's counting on me to help sharpen him, as you know, as his knife gets sharper, and obviously me allowing him to sharpen me as well. Now we're like literally sharpening each other. We're making each other better. We're reminding each other like, hey, if we do this consistently and we give into consistency more so than our emotions, we get to a point where we actually do well. And not just that, now we are allowed the idea of just being successful within, I guess, shaping our bodies, our mind, to just, I guess, overflow our life. And then that starts to become a part of what we have when it comes to our cash flows going into our bank accounts. It has to start somewhere. So if it starts with just the mentality of just like understanding that you have a good relationship with consistency, that may end up turning into, hey, I am married to consistency now. You feel me? So, and that is, feelings are good, emotional intelligence is good. But understanding that,
Yeah, because like women are less accountable than men for that exact reason. Like, I mean, owning up to things.
It's hard for that
confidence, I believe, is also interlinked with being accountable. You know, because if you make excuses,
or at least
you're like, oh well, it's not my fault. It's because of this, it's because of that. And you're deferring any problems, right? Like, say if your boss tells you, hey, you're late, you've been late 3 days already. Instead of being accountable, instead of saying, yeah, you're right, it won't happen again, you may make some excuses and say, well, it's because I was sick, or it was because of traffic, or it's because you told me 8 o'clock when it was really 6 o'clock. You just make excuses and you're not being accountable. But when you are accountable, when you own up, like, you have to be confident, and because that comes with problems. And you just tell your boss, like, yeah, man, I just didn't want to come in at 6. I had a lot going on last night. I was tired, man. I need some rest. I have a family, and I don't think it's necessary for me to come in at 6. He's gonna look at you like, who the hell you think you're talking to? And it just arises a problem. But it takes your confidence, owning up, throwing some balls, to just tell him how you feel. And it may lead to you being fired, or he may say, listen, bro, I'm gonna fuck you up. It may get physical. But this is why I believe accountability is less common in women, because it really gets to a point of violence. Well, once you become so accountable,
that's another way of saying, you know what, when I create boundaries, people are gonna push you or cast you out of their kingdom, because you have boundaries that say, yeah, no, I don't believe in what y'all doing. What y'all doing don't necessarily align with my belief system. So if you believe that your belief system works better, then yeah, you're saying I'm courageous enough to go start a platform that could possibly compete with y'all. And a lot of people are gonna look at you crazy for believing in that, or saying, you know what, you work here, you work within our platform. Without our platform, you wouldn't be anything. But then you go and be casted out, and then actually prove them wrong. You know how many stories that are somewhat like that within within this world that we live in? It's a lot, but a lot of people don't necessarily look at people's stories and what they had to go through, and a lot of them go through a lot of failures just to create an atmosphere that says, I fail to succeed. I know a bunch of y'all heard this saying of like fail forward, fail forward. But do you guys actually dissect the idea of failing forward? Sometimes you fail alone, you know? You're in your own space. You don't know if you're ever gonna get out of it, but you'll figure out something in that dark hole sometimes. You'll get to a point where you start to see within the dark. And that becomes a beautiful thing because now you're comfortable with the dark. And now you don't fear the dark. Now you can actually focus on looking upward and seeing light. And that alone becomes your power. And once you become something like that, you become a dangerous being in this world because you can't be stopped. You're unstoppable now. You're something that's feared instead of you. Because if you fear people, you fear concepts, or the only thing I fear is God. I don't fear people, I don't fear the government, but I choose not to break the law. Why? Because the law helps keep everyone accountable and everyone, I guess, in line. Because if everybody was out here operating off of their emotions, this shit would go crazy. It's already sort of going crazy, but
yeah. So what do you think about? You've heard the app is called Pair.
the what?
You heard of that? It's an app called Pair.
Yeah, I don't know if I heard of it.
It's for couples improve their relationships. So I guess the app monitors how both people are feeling, and if there's anything, they can request something through the app, and the person gets a notification like, "Are you feeling loved?" or "What's something you want right now?" And then that person puts it in the app, and the other person gets the notification. What do you think about that?
So people that are
Do you
feeling
think people need
similar,
apps to, you think they're beneficial?
I think
You
people
think it
need
can improve?
I think people need people. I think people need to stop having a relationship with phones, social media. More so have a relationship with people.
A relationship app designed for couples to enhance communication and intimacy and understanding. It offers daily questions, quizzes, exercises, and games to facilitate meaningful conversations and strengthen bonds.
I think meaningful conversations come from face-to-face interaction. Because if you're a female and you start to like someone through a screen, you don't know how they smell like. You don't know, because they could have bad breath. And now you have to educate them on the idea of keeping up their hygiene, That could be a hassle. That could just turn you off and be like, you know what? This 6 months of conversing was a waste. Because I didn't like how this looked like, or how they operated, or how they just felt in person. There's a whole different vibe when you're in-person interaction. I feel like that needs to be more common. Yeah, I enjoy the idea of connecting with people through an app, but you don't have to